with some awkwardness. Here we go. Hey, what's up, comic book fans? This is Pete from Comic Books Transformed, where we discuss all the adaptations of your favorite comics into streaming shows and movies. Today, we are talking about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I can't believe I just did that. It's kind of lame. And we're also about Andor episode 10. Brian, I saw a chuckle over there. What's up with that?
I'm laughing because I did it too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I have quite a bit to say about this movie. Brian, I bet you have some things too. Do you want to just dive right into Black Panther?
Yeah, let's just go straight into spoilers.
Straight into spoilers. All right. If you guys haven't seen Black Panther, you've been warned. So anyway, Brian, I'm going to rank this movie an 8.5. Can we get your ranking real quick?
I'm actually going to completely agree with you. I think there are some incredibly powerful moments in this film and scenes in this film.
Mhm.
But I think the movie is a little flawed, especially in terms of length.
Yes.
And that's kind of my main issue is the length of it. And it's I think part of my issue is that it delves so deeply into the grief aspect of losing Chadwick Boseman and T'Challa, but it still tries to insert that kind of MCU style humor, and I just don't think it works at all. So I think the points that were strongest were when there wasn't humor involved, and I think this movie would have been much higher had there been less of it, and they would have went full into serious tone the whole time.
Yeah, that is an interesting point. I didn't even really think about the humor. I thought it was pretty serious, except for like when you have Riri Williams or M'Baku. I felt like they were the main people. Sometimes the Dora Milaje would have jokes, like especially Okoye, but I don't know. I think the jokes. I felt like it was like the same kind of level of humor as the original Black Panther, which I think both movies are more serious than most MCU movies.
I think they worked. I think the original Black Panther movie is a much tighter movie.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think, and the humor in that movie did not bother me.
Yeah,
but it felt like there was extremes here, like that, like there was some real sad, depressing stuff in this movie, and some things that were hopeful as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think sometimes. And I honestly think this movie would have been a lot better without Riri in it.
Mm-hmm.
Not that she was bad by any means, but I just don't think that this was the right place to have a backdoor pilot for a Disney Plus show.
Yeah, that is a really great point. I think that making Riri be really present in this movie was like a later, like it was like later in the whole production process. They decided to add her or give her more of a role in this movie. I think that what happened with Letitia Wright, who's Shuri, I think that there was so much controversy over her and like the things that she would say about like vaccines and things like that, that I think Marvel didn't know what to do. And I think COVID even still affected this movie. And of course, Chadwick Boseman's death itself, right? So they had to figure out how to make this movie. And I ultimately like what they chose to do. But I do feel like it's like too ambitious. It's like almost 3 hours long. I said in our notes that at one point Namor, or Namor as they say in the movie, like his forces attack Wakanda, and to me that felt like, oh, here's the third act. We're gonna have this big battle, and then the movie's gonna end. But it's like, no. He attacks, spoilers, then he leaves, and then it's like, no, there's still like a whole other hour or more left of the movie.
Yeah.
So it's good.
And I also felt that third act felt rushed. Like it's weird to say that the movie was too long, but the third act was rushed.
Yeah.
Maybe it could have been 2 movies. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like maybe it should have ended when Namor left.
Yeah.
The cliffhanger of the grief, and then whatever, and then maybe you end it with Shuri assuming the mantle, and then you don't know what's going to happen after that, and then the third act needed more to it, I think.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the ambitious thing, and let's address that whole point right there, because yes, including Riri does feel like, oh well, we brought her in, you can see her, and now she's gonna have a Disney Plus show. And then the other thing that feels like that is Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and all of her stuff with Everett Ross. Like where I kept thinking, I was like, okay, wait a minute. She's on to him. She knows about Wakanda, and she even knows about Talokan. I gotta look down. What's the name?
Talokan.
Talokan. Like she essentially bugged those beads, and so she knows about everything going on with Black Panther and Namor and stuff like that. So, like, are the U.S. forces going to come in? Like, are the Thunderbolts going to come in? Like, I thought that they were going to do that, and I was like, oh no, that's too much. Like, don't give me that. I don't want that at all.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great point you made of like making it into two movies, and you almost could make it like two movies where like maybe they do send in the Thunderbolts or something in the second movie, and then maybe like Namor and Black Panther team up against them. That would have been cool.
Yeah, that could work too. Yeah, I think that like, yeah, they swung for the fences with the grief stuff and honoring Chadwick Boseman, and I think they needed to focus on that and focus on that kind of tone throughout the movie. And I think if you removed Riri, you removed this. I mean, you need a little bit of the contact with the U.S. government, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much as they had, and which wasn't even a lot. But I think that you keep this, with the grief, and then dealing with Namor and the idea of another kind of secret civilization. And I think this would have been a much better movie. Okay. And I'm still ranking. I'm still giving it a really high mark here. Like 8.5 is nothing to scoff at.
Oh yeah, I mean later on when we talk about our rankings and stuff, this movie, besides Spider-Man: No Way Home, is like a mile ahead of all the other Phase 4 movies. Like that's for me, in my opinion. But let's go back to Riri because you really got me interested in this whole thing. Is that like, what does she bring to the movie besides like, oh, there's an Iron Man kind of person, there's Ironheart, and she's going to be a bigger character moving forward. Like I think, and I said this in the notes, that she's essentially like a surrogate character since you are dealing with these two sort of very different societies from our normal society. So she's like a surrogate for us, the audience. And, Everett Ross kind of filled that role in the original Black Panther, and that's kind of her role in this.
Yeah, no, I agree with that statement, but I don't know. Do we still need a surrogate here? I mean, we've already been, brought into the world of Wakanda and all that. I don't think it's needed. I think that you could have explained. I mean, half the time they're talking about Riri, they're calling her the scientist. I think
it's a good point.
I think that just the fact that they said that so many times was just how much they didn't need that character to be a her.
Yeah. Really good point.
And I think you can definitely make a point where it's like, oh, Shuri sees some kind of kinship with this other young Black genius and all, but I don't think they really played up that aspect that much in the movie that it seemed worthwhile.
I do. Yes.
Yeah. I again, like, she wasn't bad by any means.
Right.
I just think that the movie would have been better if she was introduced in a different way, in a different place, or maybe just with the show.
Well, let me ask you this. You know how I kind of want to talk about specific like set pieces in the movie, but one of my favorite set pieces is when Namor's forces attack that like rig where all the scientists and like the U.S. soldiers are. Yeah. Right, that's a great sequence. Do you think? Because there's that one actress. I wasn't even going to talk about her that much. Do you know who I'm talking about? The one that's on the helicopter that's like guiding them?
Oh, yeah. I think it's Lake Bell, isn't it?
Lake Bell, right? So Lake Bell's kind of a named actress. Like people know her. Do you think that like in an original version of the script, or even like maybe even a slightly filmed version of the movie, she escapes and then like somehow the Wakandans get her and like have her as a refugee, and it's like she's the scientist, Namor wants her. Do you think that that's a possibility?
Now that you're mentioning it out loud, yeah, I absolutely think so.
Right, because they keep saying the scientist, and it's like she was the one that was like helping out on that base, and then she just like I guess dies because we never see her again after the helicopter crash.
Yeah, kind of like I mean, I know she's not like a super A-list level actress, but she's a known quantity. I think it was a rather a small part for a name like that, I guess.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean that's got to have something to do with it. By the way, that scene was fantastic. I have to agree there. It was almost scary too, honestly. The scene where all the
Absolutely.
heads pop up, and then everybody's zombie walks off the base.
So good. I've said this before multiple times doing this with you, but the reason why I love certain movies or they rank so high when we rank them is because there are scenes where I'm like, oh, it's this scene. I'm super excited to see this scene when I rewatch it. And this will always be one of those scenes. Also, like when there's that car chase that Riri's involved in when she has her suit and Shuri's on the bike and stuff, that very much reminded me of the sequence in the original Black Panther. And
Yes.
one thing about that first Black Panther and this one is their use of music. Like they use like hip hop and kind of like club dance kind of music a lot in these movies, but they use them so effectively that they like really convey the emotion you're supposed to be feeling, you
Yeah.
know? And it's different from all other MCU movies. And I think it's just done so well. And just kind of going along with what you said about it being scary, whenever you would see these underwater forces, I keep saying underwater forces or Namor's people because I always fuck up their name, but they're scary. Like they're intimidating. They beat the shit out of Okoye, you know? Like, what'd you think of Atuma and Namor?
I thought and Namora as well. I thought
Namora.
they were
Yeah.
all great. I want to focus on Namora and Atuma first
Go.
because if you get that fight with Okoye.
Yeah.
I loved that. I mean, I guess it's an arc.
Yeah.
I guess it's her story arc, Okoye's story arc, where she fights this guy, and then she's defeated and she kind of is disgraced and all that, and she kind of gets revenge at the end of it.
Mhm.
I love the calling out of warrior. I thought that was really powerful.
Mm.
I didn't quite like the aspect of her donning the Midnight Angel armor.
Okay.
I wish she could have beaten him without it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But that's a minor nitpicking point.
One thing they established in the first movie is that Shuri doesn't care about traditions, and she's always trying to like evolve the technology of Wakanda. And those Midnight Angels are kind of like a tangible example of that. It's like, okay, well, we're going beyond the Black Panther. I'm making my own suits of armor, and we can't have the Black Panther anymore, but we can have these warriors. And those Midnight Angels are in the Ta-Nehisi Coates run of Black Panther, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I remember seeing them, and I'm like, okay.
It's not Okoye in one of those suits, though.
I can't remember honestly. There's multiple Midnight Angels in that comic, like all together, like they are at the end of this movie too.
I think the ones the two. I mean, I haven't read these, and I just did.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
It replaces Okoye as the general, and then the other one that wears Aneka or Anika.
Yeah.
I can't remember the other one's name. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's those two that are the main Midnight Angels.
I think you're right. Yeah. I mean, this movie obviously borrows very heavily from that not Donny Cates, Ta-Nehisi Coates Black Panther run, and still from that Christopher Priest run. And there's such great stuff to mine from that, and it focuses on the supporting cast, which in both of those runs, T'Challa often does play a backseat to his own supporting cast. Now, you said for Black Panther that often your main critique of it is that T'Challa is not the main character, or like he's not that big a deal.
My words were he's not the most compelling character in the movie.
Okay, right. And so this movie he's removed entirely. And do you feel like that sort of solves that issue for you?
Yeah, I mean that's a really tough question. I don't want to say, yeah, I'm glad Chadwick Boseman's dead, because I don't mean that.
No.
I think that out of any movie in the MCU,
right,
this was the franchise that can survive the best without the main character.
Okay.
And I think this movie kind of proved it in a sense that they could do it without it. I still think it would have been better. I mean, of course, the movie things would have been different if he was still here.
Yeah,
still here, and maybe if in I want to say an ideal scenario, but if they wanted to still go with the same angle of T'Challa dying and all this, I think it would have worked a lot better. had he had a small presence in it as well. I mean, I know that's something we can't affect at all. That's the fact of life.
Yeah.
I won't detract from the movie because of that, but absolutely thought crossed my mind.
Well, it's funny because in the very beginning of the movie, when we first meet Namor, we see him in that ship attack. But then when we first truly meet him, he's with Ramonda and Shuri, and they're sort of like by this like river. And right before Namor shows up, Ramonda says, "There's something I have to tell you about your brother." And I thought it was going to be like at the very end of the movie or mid-credit scene, it's actually that he's alive, but he has like a different appearance, and it would be like they recast him, you know. And I actually thought about that because I was like, well, people have issues with Letitia Wright because of her like political views, and also I think that people feel kind of robbed of the T'Challa Black Panther character being taken away, you know. And in the comics, there's many times where he like they think he's dead, but he's alive, or he's like really hurt and he has to heal. So I thought it might have been like something like that, but then we find out for the mid-credit sequence there was another secret, and so I kind of wanted to know. I mean, obviously we still have to talk about the actual movie, but what did you think about that mid-credit sequence with what's her face's son? It's Nakia. Yeah, what'd you think of Nakia's son?
I think that was the best possible way to end the movie. I couldn't imagine a better ending than that.
Yeah.
That thing. I how often you mention you rank movies based on scenes you want to re-see. I often rank movies on how the emotional impact it has on a movie has on me, and
That's true.
Man, that hit me. I didn't expect it. I did have in the back of my head, throughout the movie, but like, oh wait, what was Rwanda gonna wait?
Ramonda
Say? I
got
all the other names right. I just messed that one up. I remembered that point, and then especially when she passed in the movie, I'm like, oh no, how are we gonna find out?
Right.
I never expected that was gonna be it. I also didn't think of your idea. I don't think they could have pulled that off in this movie with how much it was dedicated to the passing of Chadwick Boseman. There's no way they could have pulled that off within this movie, the way they set it up. I still think that will happen, but I think it's going to happen via some like Secret Wars mumbo jumbo nonsense, and then they're going to recast it at that point.
You took the words right out of my mouth. You know, on Comic Books Transform, we talk about how they adapt stories into movies and stuff. And so, like, obviously with Secret Wars, it's very much like DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths, where like they kind of cherry pick what they want from different realities and make one reality. Like, I think that what they'll do is they'll introduce another Black Panther, T'Challa, and then when the world gets like reset after Secret Wars, he'll just be the MCU T'Challa. That's what I thought.
Well, I don't know if they're necessarily going to do a reset here. I think resetting erases too much of what's come, and I think they're big on continuity here in the sense, of actors moving away from the movies as they get older and they don't want to do them forever. I don't think they're going to do a big reset like that. But I do think that essentially the whole idea of Secret Wars, when it was like the main Marvel universe versus the Ultimate Universe and how Miles Morales survived, like that's kind of what is going to happen here, but it's going to be T'Challa rather than Miles Morales.
Right, but with that example with Miles Morales, it is kind of treated as if Miles was always part of the 616 reality after Secret Wars. So that's kind of what I was getting at, but like, I mean, I guess we'll see, and that's certainly far down the road. We have just ended Phase 4 with this movie, and I really do think that this, like No Way Home and this, are the two standout, really great movies in here. But yet, there's not that much super connective tissue besides the stuff with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Like, the one thing that I thought was, I almost felt like I got punked, was that we did have that great mid-credit scene where we find out that T'Challa had a son, and that his name is T'Challa as well. But then, like, there's no post-credit scene after that.
Yeah, again, I think that was about honoring Chadwick Boseman. That was the goal of this movie.
Yeah,
and I think, and that's also why I think the whole Riri thing it feels out of place too.
Yeah,
this doesn't jive with that. But I mean, also maybe the answer is they somehow age that younger T'Challa, and he's just
yeah. Well, honestly, I was thinking too, like, okay, so here's like a weird discussion, but like the actor that plays Kang is black, right? And so Kang in the comics, normally is the son of Reed Richards, right? Or not this. I'm sorry, not the son of Reed Richards, but like a descendant of Reed Richards, right? And so we've kind of thought about the idea of like, well, what if Reed Richards is played by an African American actor, and he like eventually like down the road, Kang is his descendant. I keep thinking that Kang might somehow be connected to Wakanda as well. Like maybe they won't go the Reed Richards route at all. I don't know with Kang, but like I think it's interesting that they show T'Challa's son, and that's a great story point, and it gives this great ending to the movie.
yeah.
But I think like also kind of moving his bloodline forward, I can almost see it being like he is the son
Yeah,
of T'Challa, or sure,
that's an excellent guess, and
yeah,
I think that would be a smart move to go on here, especially since we haven't seen the Fantastic Four yet. You know, the regular version of them, I suppose.
yeah,
And also this, you know, of course they're if they did cast a black actor as Reed Richards, of course there would be somebody like, no, Reed's white, blah 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 blah, and whatever, and you know, whatever. So I think that kind of solves a problem for them
yeah,
in a way,
yeah.
and I think it also makes a lot of sense too. I think.
Yeah, and I mean, it just kind of all seems to be coalescing towards this idea, right? Because I said this in a previous video that like Kang, I think they're going to make Kang sort of like a direct result of everything we're seeing in the present day. That
Yeah.
like what's going on in the regular MCU leads to Kang, and so they've obviously done this thing where it's like Tony Stark created Iron Man. He kind of started this whole thing, but then like Wakanda coming in has sort of just advanced that and moved it, and so like Riri is this fusion of Tony Stark ideas and Wakanda technology, you know. So I just see that kind of going that way, and even like because you see the trailer for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and like Kang's forces, it looks like the kind of the ships from Wakanda for Kang's forces.
Yeah.
You know. What else we got to say about this movie? I think that M'Baku is fantastic. I love M'Baku once again. I actually love the supporting cast a lot in this movie.
Yeah.
I was super surprised to see Michael B. Jordan. What about you?
Yeah, I was very surprised. This was part of the whole thing I felt was rushed. You know, Shuri figures out how to recreate the Archie bird,
Yeah.
and she takes it, and then you know she's expecting to see her mother because she just passed.
Right.
And I thought, and I think they even kind of implied it because they showed the back of the throne first, and it's the room where she died.
Yeah. Right.
And then you kind of turn around and you see it's him. I think this is another place that also what might have been good to have T'Challa there instead, but
right.
Alas, no, that wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah.
It was an interesting choice to put him in there like that, and I see this is the reason I think it's all rushed is because Shuri's arc post Ramonda's death is very much mirrors T'Challa's in Civil War.
That's
all
good. That's
rage
a good point.
and vengeance, and then kind of at the end, she kind of he comes to his senses and realizes that this isn't anybody's fault here, and we need to be better. We need to work together. And I really appreciated that, but I really wish that it wasn't turned around so fast.
Yeah, I agree.
Go
ahead.
I just before I get too off topic there, I have to say that I think the best actor in this entire movie is Angela Bassett as wait, did I say her name right? Oh my god.
Yeah, no, you did.
Okay. As Ramonda. Oh my god. Every scene she was in was like amazing.
Yes.
I can't give her enough credit for how great she is in this movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? With these Marvel movies, is that you're so used to them setting everything up and it being this bigger tapestry that's sort of what you're focused on, and you sometimes just like forget the emotional beats, or it's like the emotional beats don't matter. It's like, oh, just get to the battle and do. But like when she makes Okoye give up her spear, like at first I was like, oh, is this kind of like a plot point? Are they setting something up in the future for this? But it's like it makes sense because like Okoye is there when Shuri gets kidnapped, and so Ramonda is saying like, hey, you failed the family yet again. Like you're gone, and like it's one of those moments where it's like, yes, this is how a person would react. Her whole family's gone at this point, and then it's like flipped when Namor kills Shuri's mother. It's like, okay, well now Shuri is the one that doesn't have any family members, and I was actually surprised that they killed Queen Ramonda. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
this
yeah, go ahead.
family has a break. I mean, we're open to this to Wakanda with the death of King T'Chaka.
Yeah,
Then T'Challa dies, and then Ramonda dies. Like,
yeah, yeah. It just keeps going. But like in the comics, T'Challa, Shuri, and Ramonda are still alive in the comics, I believe.
yeah,
Um,
and I think we talked about M'Baku and Winston Duke.
yeah,
I think, how do we not mention that it seems like he's going to be leading Wakanda moving forward? Like, how
yes,
interesting is that?
yes. M'Baku, I'm pretty sure, has been the leader of Wakanda before. I know either him or Killmonger took over at one point in the Christopher Priest comics. It's possible that both of them have taken over at different points too. So yeah. Well, I was gonna say because we also need to talk about Andor real quick before we wrap this up. But like,
Yes.
there's multiple scenes that I'm always going to want to see. And probably the one that stands out the most is when Namor takes Shuri down to Talokan and you see that underwater civilization. And it's so different from the Aquaman civilization. A couple of details I love. I love the fact that the Talokan people, when they're above the water, they're blue, but then when they're in the water, they're tan. Love that detail. I actually truly love that it's like they're not this ancient civilization that always existed in the water. It's a civilization that started kind of around the time of like Spanish colonialism, and they were escaping the colonials, and they found like not a heart-shaped herb, but like vibranium in a plant, and that's what their whole civilization is based on. I really love that. I think that Namor is fucking fantastic in this movie.
Yeah, I
And
love him.
go ahead, yeah. Tell me what you think about Namor.
Yeah, I thought he was great. I thought they showed his purpose and his powers. And, they dropped the M word. He said he's a mutant. I love that absolutely.
Yeah,
One minor, small complaint I would say I would have is the last scene with him. It almost seems like he made him a little desperate, I guess. I wish maybe the conflict would have been resolved slightly differently. Maybe
mm-hmm.
kind of appealing to Namor's senses rather than just actually beating him.
Yeah.
I think that Namor in the comics is a very arrogant ruler, but he is, he's honorable and he's, God, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Noble.
Yeah, noble works. Yeah. I think that there should have been some aspect where there was more of equal ground between the two nations rather than Talokan kind of turning their tails and waiting something out for the future.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point, especially because at the very end, there's like maybe like 6 Wakandans still alive on that ship. And there's so many people from Talokan just like coming up. And it's like they're clearly outnumbered. His forces were so superior and so strong, which is so ironic because he's nowhere near as arrogant as the Namor in the comics.
Yeah.
Like that's almost Namor's superpower in the comics is like his arrogance.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, he's absolutely confident and he's super powerful. But the thing that stands out the most about him in the movie is that he's like trying to protect his people. Namor cares about his people in the comics too, but he's like much more arrogant. The actor that plays Namor, I gotta find his name real quick, but I also want to talk about. Yes. He is so fucking good, and he does so much acting with his face in this movie too. Like just his eyes. He kind of has these bulging, crazy eyes, and he's so like compassionate too. I think perfect casting. I want to see more of him. Obviously,
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
All right. Oh, good.
One last question about his name. So they kept saying that he got his name from Namor as the boy without love.
Right.
Is that anything in comics? Because I didn't think so.
No,
and
no.
I would say that I didn't like that.
No.
I think that was a little silly.
It absolutely was silly. I mean, I don't know why the fuck he's called Namor in the comics. It's probably just because it's like sounds like Naval or something.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, they had to make it Mesoamerican somehow. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So shit, we didn't even do our ranking. You want to do a quick ranking too?
Real quick.
All right, so there's 30 fucking MCU movies.
Oh God!
Start at the bottom, go up to Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
All right. Bottom. And now there's going to be a big shift here. Maybe not as drastic as you would expect, but it's a shift because I did rewatch a movie recently.
Okay.
So bottom, Iron Man 2, Incredible Hulk, Thor 2, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, Iron Man, Thor, Ant-Man, Shang-Chi, Iron Man 3, Guardians 1, Age of Ultron, Captain America 1, Spider-Man Far From Home, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Black Widow, Black Panther, Spider-Man Homecoming, Eternals, Thor Love and Thunder, Doctor Strange 2, Wakanda Forever, number 9. Captain America Civil War, Guardians 2, Avengers Infinity War, Winter Soldier, Ragnarok, Endgame, No Way Home. So I bumped up Black Panther a lot. I rewatched it kind of with a new perspective on it, maybe like a week or two ago. I really need to do a full rewatch of everything to redo this because I'm basing some of these thoughts on some of these movies I only watched once, I think, like Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel, Shang-Chi. I only watched those movies once.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually need to rewatch them too, but I mean, there's 30 fucking movies now, right? It's like, how many hours would that even be?
You know, one a day. That's still a month's worth of movies.
Oh my God, yeah. I'm glad that Black Panther has changed in your lineup. I do think that it's kind of a cut above a lot of the MCU movies because there's more to it. Like just seeing Michael B. Jordan in this movie as Killmonger, I'm like, oh man, he's so good. He's like maybe the best villain in the MCU, if not like maybe it's Thanos. I think Namor, he's a villain in this movie. I think he should maybe be up there too. I almost would want to do a villain ranking. And also one other thing I was going to say to you before I do my list is why don't we just keep this episode as Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and then on our next episode we'll just do 2 episodes of Andor. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. Yeah. Although I mean it's supposed to be a 2-part finale, so I'm hoping we're not gonna be stuck with a cliffhanger-y kind of deal. But that's fine. I mean, we're gonna do it anyway. You're right. We're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and also like we still kind of go back and forth of like should we talk about Earthspark or not? We'll see that. But all right, let me do my ranking. Yep. Wait. So where the fuck did Wakanda Forever fall in there? Can you just
it was 9. So I have it just under Civil War for me. Again, like incredibly. So I would rank some of the scenes in this movie as top 5, top 10 in the MCU. But I think the length and the third act being rushed, I think that they could have changed something or made this 2 movies or something, and it would have been better overall.
Wow, I feel like we feel the exact same way about this movie. Let's see. All right, so my rankings: Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, going from the bottom, Thor: The Dark World, Ant-Man, Captain America: The First Avenger, Spider-Man: Far From Home, Doctor Strange, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Thor, Avengers: Age of Ultron, Black Widow, Captain Marvel, Thor: Love and Thunder. Not really feeling that movie very much. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Man, there's a lot of Phase 4 in there. Spider-Man: Homecoming. Iron Man 3, Iron Man, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Captain America.
What number is that?
I believe it's 9 as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, it's 10. It's 10. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's funny that Iron Man has been knocked out of the top 10 for me because I always tried to keep Iron Man in there. But so Iron Man is 11, Wakanda Forever is 10, Civil War is 8. Avengers, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Spider-Man: No Way Home, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Avengers: Endgame, Thor: Ragnarok, Black Panther is number 2 for me. It pretty much has been for a long time. Avengers: Infinity War is number 1.
Okay. Wow.
That's some hot shit. So I really enjoyed this movie. I got to see it with my daughter Pepper, and she also felt like it was way too long. At one point, like I knew there was like an hour left. And she's like, how much more is left? I'm like, I think it's just like a half hour, then it's done.
Yeah, Brandon was with me when we saw it, and he's like, I liked it. He said I liked it, but it was too long and it was boring in some parts. And then we walked out. I was like, I didn't really like it that much.
Yeah, I mean, this one is very much made for adults.
Honestly, no, this is not a MCU kid-friendly movie at all.
No. So, yeah, man, I enjoyed talking about this with you. I know we had like kind of less time to do it, but I really want to talk about that episode of Andor, episode 10, One Way Out. So we'll do that this week, and we'll do the next episode of Andor and whatever else comes up. But if you guys have not subscribed to Comic Books Transform, please do. You can see mine and Brian's sexy, furry faces every week. And we want to hear what you guys have to say about these things, too. We will see y'all next time.